to Tracing Your Family Roots. I'm Chuck Mason, and with me today is my co-host and partner in crime, Janelle Blue. And we're going to talk about, because Mount Vernon Genealogical Society sponsors our program, and we want to thank them for doing that, we're going to talk about the society itself and probably throw some other things in about some other societies in the area. But the pandemic that we had a few years ago has certainly changed a lot of genealogical societies. In this area, the DC area, I know Montgomery County in Maryland is trying to get their society going again. The Prince George's Society is kind of like Fairfax and Mount Vernon hanging in there. I was their speaker a couple of months ago, and Fairfax and Mount Vernon are hanging in there too. The National Genealogical Society is kind of in the same situation. So, we're going to talk a little bit about those kinds of things, what's changed, what's going on with the society. So,
well, COVID really had an impact, not only on genealogical societies, but everything. And so it forced us to learn how to meet by Zoom, where we might have gradually gotten to that, but it forced us to learn that in a hurry, and we adapted to it. Which is wonderful. But now it's interesting to see whether or not we can attract people back into, because one of the things about being in an organization is the social aspects of it. And, genealogy, the whole idea of the Genealogy Society is that we're like-minded. We're all interested in one topic. But the best thing you can do is to be able to talk with other people about their research and what they found and what their ideas are about helping you.
And of course, Mount Vernon has always had a social time after.
Yeah.
And that's the time when different people would come up and ask me questions, about their research. I mean, I've been teaching and lecturing for more than 25 years. And so that has been a good resource that some people have taken advantage of. And you can't do that on Zoom.
No.
I taught for Fairfax County Adult Ed. We had to go to Zoom. And also I've done lectures on Zoom. And I don't find that there is the interaction with a class or with doing a program that you would have if it was in person. Particularly like with classes, normally during the break, that's when people would ask me questions and all. And, I'm trying like the dentist, pulling teeth to get them to participate and ask, and for the most part, they didn't seem to want to do that. So it's really been a change.
Now, most organizations have figured out a way to do a hybrid meeting so that for those people who really don't want to come or can't.
Yes.
And some people moved away, but they still want to be part of the organization. Zoom is perfect for that. So we have been trying that at Mount Vernon. I'm not sure that all of the presentations are hybrid right now.
No. Right now, last month was in person only. This month is in person only. And I'm not sure, I think June may be in person only. But they are trying different formats to see. They also did a survey which ended on Friday. The president and the board put that together. President sent it out the beginning of the month, and the end of the survey, chance to participate, was Friday. And I just happened to meet, because we had some business to take care of at the bank, with her and the former treasurer and I met, and she, I think, said 56 people had participated in that survey. So that was roughly a quarter of the membership.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
Which is pretty good for a survey.
Surveys don't, yeah.
Surveys don't, but she said she didn't really go into specifics. She'll do that at the next board meeting, but she said there were some interesting responses to some of the questions, and and the survey asked things like, do you prefer the meetings on Zoom? Do you prefer them in person, a combination? Why do you like that kind of one or the other kind of thing? So it's going to be interesting at our next board meeting.
And Mount Vernon is a little unique in that we have a library.
Yes.
We have our own dedicated library at the Holland Hall Center. And that was closed for a long time during COVID, wasn't it? But now we've started getting some traffic through there.
Yes. Yes, I happened to be there on Wednesday at the center, and in between, because I'm there for a morning event and an afternoon event, so I usually grab my lunch and eat it, and then gravitate over to the library to see what was going on, and looked like they had some activity there in the morning, and other days there's no one, just the volunteers.
But because we have volunteers, I mean, that's an opportunity. If you've got questions about research or just want to talk about what's going on with your research and what might be helpful, there are people there that can do that. And boy, is that, I mean, I was just in Berlin. I was looking for maps. I went to the Berlin library, and the guy that was there in the map room was so helpful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to, to really understand what I was looking at.
And Mount Vernon's library is small. Holland Hall is a former elementary school. And so the library is a classroom, but it is packed full. The seams are almost bursting.
Yeah.
But it has so much in there, and we also have access to a lot of databases. And one of the things that they just, I believe it was last year or toward the end of the year before, they are now what is known as an affiliate of the Family History Centers, which the Family History Centers are libraries in the Mormon churches. Not everyone has one, but there are quite a few in this area. And also other libraries can get an affiliate, and we were able to get that. So that means you can go to our library. You don't have to go to a family history center.
Yeah.
For me, the way I go to Mount Vernon, I don't pass one, but there is one that I could pass. The other two are in another direction from me, but I'm over at the center a number of times during the month. So, I've got something that I can't get with my Ancestry subscription, or I can't get because it is restricted to only a family history center having access to it. I can pop in the library and look those things up.
And just for our viewers, the family history libraries have, I can't even quantify the resources that they have available online, and they've digitized microfilm that had been accumulated for decades.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is restricted, and you'll find it, and then you want to open it up and it'll say, nope, it's locked.
Yeah.
There's where we come in, because then you have to go to one of those to see.
And what that restriction is, whoever owns the library, for example, New Jersey State Archives does not share with the public. They want you to come to Trenton, but there are records there that they had on film that now are, some of them have gone up on the website.
Yeah,
not everything, but if they have it and it's been digitized, you can go into a family history center or an affiliate and look at those records.
Exactly.
So, it's a great resource. It's a great asset. And we have different people have different experiences. And, I just happened to be in the library, as I say, Wednesday, and somebody called because they knew a particular person who works in the library, had a lot of knowledge about the area that they had a question about. So they called to say, what days does that person work? So they knew what day to come into the library. And it was the first and second Wednesdays of the month. So,
but you do have to go in person.
Yes.
You can't go on to our website and access it that way.
No.
It has to be in person. So that's important. But that has changed a little bit about, people coming in, and that's a good thing. Now, I lead a book club for Mount Vernon Genealogical Society, and we read history books that might have some application to genealogy research. We've we're beginning to read a little bit of historical fiction, because sometimes that's more fun. But it also gives you a glimpse into what was going on at that particular time. We started that during COVID, and we are still going to continue doing that by Zoom.
Yeah, and there are a number of special interest groups. I know there's a Virginia one. I know that there's an African American one. I'm not sure of all of the ones, but these are groups of people who have an interest in a topic, whatever it may be, and they get together usually once a month. And the leader may or may not have a great deal of knowledge about the area, but they are willing to lead the group. And then the group gets together, and they may have formal presentations. They may just discuss things,
just talk about
each other's
what they're
brains
finding,
about what they found, or what someone may know. The Fairfax Society has a Mid-Atlantic one, and that's basically part of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware. And I know I now have a conflict with the day that they meet, so I haven't been able to attend. But I know different ones have different knowledges about different places, and so it's everybody contributing to the success of that particular group. And they have done a couple of trips, like field trips to places, and that I find is always, to me, it's always intimidating to go to a new place where you basically don't know too much about it, and rather than having someone who has been there before, so they know what you need to do.
Right. I was intimidated in Berlin. It was like,
sure.
And I actually wound up started out with the wrong library, and they sent me over to a different one. And then finally they said, well, here's the third one you can go to. And I ran out of time. So I've got to, but the point is that you don't even know where the entrance is practically, or what the rules are. It's to start with. And then once you go, and like you've led the Library of Congress.
Yes.
The tours, and NARA as well. I mean, those are so intimidating if you've never been there before.
Yes. And I have taught for many years for Fairfax County Adult Ed, and I have, like for those facilities, I have things with slides and everything, and I go
lay out
everything that you need to know before you go.
Yeah.
And I have used to be with Adult Ed, we could then do a trip. Well, because of insurance purposes, they stopped doing that. Although if I had a group that was interested, I'd say, okay, we're on our own, but I'll meet you down there at such and such a date. And the one comment that I've had people come back and say, even with all you told me, I still would have been intimidated to go down there by myself.
Yeah.
Because you see in the slides and all, but it's different when you actually physically get there.
But it is nice to know that you got to have a reader card before you can do anything else. So at least start there.
Yes. So, that's always a good idea. The first time I went to the New Jersey State Archives, it was a disaster because, they had rules and regulations which they didn't tell you about because this was long before they had websites,
Uh-huh.
till you got there. And so basically I wasted that day.
That's the problem.
And I didn't really I said, I'll probably never go back there. And it was many years before I finally went back there. But I just happened to have somebody that I met who went often. And so they said, well, I'm going on this date, meet me there. So having just that one person was such a help in getting started. Same way with Harrisburg, Pennsylvania State Archives.
So I know that Mount Vernon is planning a conference this year.
Yes.
And I think it is the early part of
It's the first Saturday in September, which I think is the 7th, but
yeah.
I'm not positive.
And I think that's going to be a really good, because not only is it going to be just like other conferences where you go in and sit down and you hear somebody, but you also, there's going to be some interaction. And so they're basically wanting to talk about a day in the life of your ancestor and try to put you into their shoes. And then they're going to basically ask our participants to think about an ancestry that they want to work on during that thing. So there's going to be interesting.
And we had an interesting program in April. One of our members did a program on land records, specifically out in the Midwest.
Uh-huh.
And she gave us copies of documents, and we worked together in groups of 2. And she had a list of questions that you were to answer. And some of them, the specific answers were there. Some of them you had to think about and think, okay, what was the scenario? And in some cases, it was either this or this. And in order to answer that, hopefully you would be able to go out and find other records that were not there.
Yeah. Well, one of the missions of genealogical societies, at least Mount Vernon, and I'm pretty sure Fairfax too, is education.
Yeah.
And what better way to learn than have some interactive way to do it? And it's not intimidating, because you're partnering, but it makes a big difference.
And one of the other things that they have been doing is they have been doing a contest where they give you a problem. And one of them was to go to the Fairfax County Courthouse. Another one was just to go on to the Fold 3 website. But again, you were to go to the courthouse and look for specific records to answer questions, or go on to Fold 3. And of course, then I don't know what the current one is that they've got going, but they have prizes, and some of them have been like subscriptions to Ancestry or Fold 3 or other online databases and those kinds of things. And it's just learning by doing.
Yeah. And, I don't know about you, but when I took the Boston University course, that was one of the requirements, was we had to go to a library and go to the loose files and pull out a document, and any document, didn't matter, and evaluate that. And that this was a long time ago, but it introduced me to loose files.
Yeah.
It was a learning experience.
And I had that with the National Genealogical Society's home study course back in the 1990s. Back in 1994, I completed it. I started in 93. And you had lessons, and one of them was, well, a couple of them were to go to the courthouse. One of them on land records was to pick a particular deed and then follow through on that to, okay, when did they sell off the property, but also going back when did they buy the property?
Ah,
And so,
yeah.
and of course, with that one, I figured, oh, I'll do George Washington because well,
Really? You found
when I
stuff?
went, oh, lots of stuff.
Yeah.
That was the problem. There was too much stuff. I had hardly gone through maybe a quarter of the deed book, and I had pages of. So I figured I need to
Yeah.
put something else out, and for like probate records, you had, because there are many types of records. There's the will, there's the intestate estates where they left no will, there's
Yeah.
guardianships and
Yeah.
inventories and bonds.
Inventories, those are really
And you
interesting.
were supposed to find an estate and look for all of these things. Not everyone would you necessarily find every type of document. Like if there weren't any minor children,
Right.
there wasn't a guardianship.
Right.
So, it introduced you to searching for those records.
And the other project we did was I had to go to the NARA, and I had to pull a Civil War file.
Yeah.
And now, by the way, Fairfax County Genealogical Society has a project that they in fact, I've been just dying to get involved in that, and my schedule hasn't worked, but where you can go into that center that they have and help to digitize
records.
Civil War records.
Yes.
Well, these are pension records. But how much fun is that to get to read those things while you're digitizing?
Well, and doing it with a group is always more fun than going down there and pulling them.
Yeah, because they know you're coming. They welcome you. They've set you up. It's not like you walk in off the street and say, "Hi, I'm here. What can I do?" So it's organized a little bit. Yeah. And I've really been wanting to do that. Yeah. And there's plenty of pension files out there yet to be digitized.
Yes.
Because it's one letter at a time.
Yes. Before we get too far, if they would put the website up for Mount Vernon, we have a few things. This is their homepage, and lots of information there. Over in the lower right-hand corner there is always the listing of the upcoming events. So if you want to know what the meeting is going to be, there's two of the people doing the program, and jury is down below. They do have a members only section in there on the website with information that only members get access to. I assume that the catalog for the library is still in there somewhere. All of the special interest groups information is there as to when they meet, where they meet, how they meet. Some of them are on Zoom, some of them are in person, some of them are a combination of the two. There's Jerry. Jerry is in charge of the library, and she has a nice staff of volunteers that helps her. There's always two people in the library. Sometimes they both know all about the computers, but you always have at least one of them that is quite knowledgeable about the computers.
Well, one thing I want to interject is that, yes, we're here in Virginia, but everything's not limited to Virginia. No. We do have access to a lot of people who know a lot about Virginia.
Yes.
But, the library's filled with resources from all over, and we often hear presentations on Pennsylvania, once on Texas that nobody really was interested in, but for the most part.
And that irritates me when people won't go, because I will go and listen to a presentation and listen to what records they have there.
Yeah. And
then go look for, okay, does New Jersey or Pennsylvania, where my families are from, do they have those records? I, along with Sharon Hodges, listened to a presentation at the National Genealogical Society conference on tax records, but it was all about Virginia. And then we went and looked into tax records in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
which are almost non-existent.
Really?
They didn't hold on to them.
Oh.
And if you're lucky enough, I found a book on tax records in one county where some of my collateral family was, and I'm looking through for Springfield Township, and I couldn't find it. And finally, I went to the front of the book and found Springfield Township was the one township that all the records were lost.
Uh,
And Sharon didn't find much for hers either.
but tax records, you know, but on my ancestors that in the 1850s and 1860s, that's the only thing that showed they were there.
Yes.
Was that one tax, but it also showed how much land they had, how many cows, you know.
Yep.
So it was invaluable.
Yeah.
And then it never showed up again. So they must have destroyed a lot too.
Yeah.
But boy, did that make a difference from my research.
So you never know what you're going to learn from a presentation, even if it is not specifically on the location where your ancestors happen to be from.
Yeah. So don't limit yourself just because you think that maybe your ancestors are not.
Yeah.
And honestly, most of our ancestors were traveling around, so they might have lived for a while here and there. And
Most of the time, any presentation that I go to, I pick up something.
yeah,
You know, usually it's a little more than a something. I've only ever had one where I felt, nah, I didn't learn anything. And I've been going to presentations for more than 25 years. So.
well, I mean, the whole idea of genealogy is it's a broad topic,
Yes.
and you can't just walk in and focus on one thing. So,
We are just about out of time.
we could talk about this for many hours.
But, hopefully if our viewers have not been down to Mount Vernon, come and visit the library, visit us on a meeting day.
And this is not Mount Vernon Museum. This is Mount Vernon Genealogical Society at Holland Hall, 1500 Shenandoah.
Right. Which is right behind the Holland Hall Shopping Center, which is a big shopping center on Fort Hunt Road.
Right.
It's one of two.
Yeah.
There's one up just after you get on off of the Beltway, and this is a little further down.
Yeah.
So, yes, we have nothing to do with the museum.
Although it's certainly of interest, and we do have speakers from time to time, but we're not affiliated with them.
Yes.
And we're in Virginia, by the way. There are Mount Vernons in other places in the U.S., but we're in Alexandria, Virginia.
Virginia.
So come join us.